Hi guys, welcome to our YouTube channel Streamline Education. I am Chetan and today we are going to see the basics of chemistry, not chemistry, basics of chemistry. So what is chemistry? You can find chemistry in almost everything around you. For example, right now I am breathing and while breathing I take in oxygen. And oxygen is an element in chemistry. And while exhaling I give out carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide consists of carbon and oxygen, which are both elements in chemistry. So how many elements are known to us? Now at present we know 118 elements in chemistry. What actually are these elements? These are nothing but substances from which this whole universe is made. Now, I will be made from one of the substances, one of the elements from these 118 elements. For example, my body mainly consists of carbon. It will be having a lot of carbon in it, and carbon is an element in chemistry. So, chemistry, you will find it in almost everything around you. Now, when you want to make a cake, what will you first do? You will mix the ingredients and then bake it. So conversion of these ingredients, when you bake it and it gets converted into something else, that is also an example of chemistry. Because when you look at the ingredients, they are somewhat in the liquid state, and after the reaction or after the baking takes place, it becomes a solid. So that is also an example of chemistry. So understanding chemistry is very, very important to us. And what is chemistry? If we say in simple words, it is nothing but the study of matter and what matter is made up of. Study of matter, what matter is made up of, what are the properties of matter, and how matter changes from one form to another form. So what is chemistry? It is nothing but a branch of science that deals with the study of matter, its properties, its composition, and how matter changes from one form to another form. That is called as chemistry. And obviously, chemistry is a branch of science. So what actually science is? Science is a process. It is a process by which we can understand our natural universe. Science क्या होता है? एक ऐसा प्रोसेस है जिसके थ्रू हम हमारे नेचुरल यूनिवर्स को अच्छी तरह समझ सकते हैं. So science is a very important thing in understanding our natural universe. Now we know there are many languages by which we express ourselves. जैसे मैं अभी इंग्लिश में बात करता हूँ, कभी हिंदी में बात करता हूँ. वैसे ही साइंस की एक खुद की लैंग्वेज होती है जो कि बहुत अच्छी होती है, न ही इंग्लिश ना ही हिंदी, बट द लैंग्वेज ऑफ साइंस इज मैथमेटिक्स. एंड mathematics is a language which can express science in a very, very, very proper way. So chemistry is nothing but all about matter. What its properties are, what its composition, what is its composition, and how matter changes from one form to another. Chemistry is a very, very vast subject and it has 5 disciplines. What do we mean by disciplines? Nothing but the branches of chemistry. So let us have a look at the branches or disciplines of chemistry. So let us look at the disciplines of chemistry. First branch of chemistry is called as physical chemistry. First branch is called as physical chemistry. Now if you look at the two words, you will see there is physical and there is chemistry. That means physics and chemistry. So in this type of chemistry, you are going to apply the laws of physics in order to understand the chemical system. क्या करने वाले इस टाइप ऑफ केमिस्ट्री में? ये कौन सा टाइप ऑफ केमिस्ट्री है जिसमें हम फिजिक्स के लॉस को अप्लाई करेंगे और केमिकल सिस्टम्स को ये लॉस अप्लाई करने के बाद उनको समझने की कोशिश करेंगे. यानी कि बाय अप्लाइंग द लॉज ऑफ फिजिक्स वी आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड द केमिकल सिस्टम्स. पता है कुछ समझ नहीं आया होगा तो एक एग्जांपल ले लेते हैं. Now we know that matter is made up of atoms and molecules. Suppose that this is some matter and these are two molecules inside it. We know that there is a force of attraction between these molecules which is called as intermolecular force of attraction. ये दोनों मॉलिक्यूल्स के बीच में क्या रहता है, एक फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन रहता है जिसको बोला जाता है इंटरमॉलिक्यूलर फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन. अब अगर इन दोनों मॉलिक्यूल्स में force of attraction, if the force of attraction between these two molecules is very high, okay, if the force of attraction is very high, will it be easy to separate these molecules? No, obviously not, because the force of attraction is very high, therefore you cannot easily separate the two molecules. In order to separate these molecules, we will have to provide a lot of energy to it. A high amount of energy should be provided in order to separate these molecules. अब एनर्जी बहुत ज्यादा देनी पड़ेगी अगर इन मॉलिक्यूल्स को सेपरेट करना है, तो क्या हम इसपे से उसकी फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टी कुछ पता लगवा सकते हैं? कैन वी फाइंड आउट सम फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टी फ्रॉम इट व्हेन वी से दैट अ हाई अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी हैज टू बी गिवन टू सेपरेट दीज मॉलिक्यूल्स? देन व्हाट कैन वी से अबाउट इट्स मेल्टिंग पॉइंट? व्हाट विल बी इट्स मेल्टिंग पॉइंट, हाई और लो? ऑब्वियसली इट्स मेल्टिंग पॉइंट विल बी वेरी हाई बिकॉज you have to provide a high amount of energy in order to separate these molecules. Now, what we have done, we have studied the force between these two molecules, and force is studied in physics. Okay, force is studied in physics. So we are applying physics to find out the properties of a particular substance. So this is nothing but physical chemistry. Now the best example of physical chemistry is anything that is powered by battery is an example of physical chemistry. Why? Because in a battery, first some chemical reaction takes place and then the current starts to flow. So chemical reactions in chemistry and electric current in physics. So applying the laws of physics to understand chemical systems is called as physical chemistry. Now let us look at the second branch of chemistry, which is called as organic chemistry. Organic word तो बहुत बार सुना होगा, organic chemistry. So what is organic chemistry? It is nothing but it is a branch of chemistry which deals with the study of compounds. Which compounds? Organic compounds. And what do you mean by organic compounds? ऐसे compounds जिनके अंदर कार्बन होता है, ऐसे compounds जिनके अंदर कार्बन होता है, ऐसे कंपाउंड्स को हम बोलते हैं ऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड्स. So what are organic compounds? Substances that contain carbon in them are called as organic compounds. And what is organic chemistry? It is nothing but a branch of chemistry that deals with the study of organic compounds. So organic chemistry कहाँ पे यूज हो सकती है? Organic chemistry can be used while you are making detergents. Okay? Organic chemistry कहाँ पे यूज हो सकती है? जब आप डिटर्जेंट्स बनाते हो, then in that case you can use organic chemistry. Then in the case of dyes are used. It is a substance which gives color to something else. Okay, dye color होता है जो कलर देने के लिए, एक substance होता है जो कलर देने के लिए यूज होता है. So this is about organic chemistry. Now the next discipline of chemistry is called as inorganic chemistry. Next जो branch है उसको बोला जाता है inorganic chemistry. Now पहला था organic, ये है inorganic. Organic chemistry में there was carbon present in the substance. Now inorganic chemistry, again it is a branch of chemistry which deals with the study of inorganic compounds. It is a branch of chemistry that deals with the study of inorganic compounds. And what are inorganic compounds? Obviously the compounds which will not contain any carbon in them. ऐसे सब्सटेंसेस जिनमें कार्बन बिल्कुल नहीं होता या नहीं के बराबर होता है, ऐसे सब्सटेंसेस को हम बोलते हैं इनऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड्स. तो ऐसे सब्सटेंसेस का अगर हम स्ट्रक्चर ढूंढ के निकालते हैं, इसके ऊपर के इनके प्रॉपर्टीज पढ़ के निकालते हैं या कुछ इनके रिएक्शंस देखते हैं, किसके? इनऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड्स के, तो ये किसका पार्ट हो जाएगा? इनऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट्री का. इनऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट्री के भी बहुत सारे एप्लीकेशंस होते हैं. इनमें भी एक चीज है जहाँ पे यूज होता है, जैसे कि पिगमेंट्स बनाने में, ये भी एक कलरिंग वाले सब्सटेंसेस होते हैं, इसमें इनऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट्री यूज होती है. और कैन यू टेल मी द एग्जांपल्स ऑफ इनऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड्स जिसमें कार्बन नहीं हो? तो फॉर एग्जांपल इफ आई से NaCl, सोडियम क्लोराइड, क्या सोडियम क्लोराइड में कार्बन है? नहीं है, तो ये कौन सा कंपाउंड हो गया? इट इज एन इनऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड। और ऐसे कंपाउंड्स की स्टडी जब हम करते हैं तो उसको क्या बोला जाता है? इनऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट्री। ओके, चलो अभी आगे बढ़ते हैं। चौथा वाला जो केमिस्ट्री का डिसिप्लिन है या ब्रांच है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज एनालिटिकल केमिस्ट्री। एनालिटिकल केमिस्ट्री। सो इसमें दिस इज द वर्ड एनालिटिकल। एनालिटिकल का मतलब क्या होता है? एनालिसिस। So this branch of chemistry deals with the analysis of substances. Analysis means in-depth study. बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ाई करना, कोई चीज को अच्छे से जान लेना, that is analysis. So in analytical chemistry we analyze the substances. हम क्या करते हैं? Substances को analyze करते हैं। अब what do you mean by analysis? Now suppose this is some matter. Okay, this is a matter. This matter is made up of A, B, C, D, E substances. This matter is made up of A, B, C, D, E substances. Now, what will come under analytical chemistry? First of all, what we are going to study, what we are going to do in order to study this matter? First, we are going to separate all these substances. So, first thing that will be involved will be separation. So, separation means इसमें सेपरेट होगा A, then B, then C, then D and E. This is called as separation. We have separated the substances from the matter. Then after separation, the next step will be identification. Identification of matter. Identification of matter means which type of substance is this. For example, A may be oxygen, B may be nitrogen, C may be carbon. So this is called as identification. It is called as identification. Then first was separation, second was identification, and third is called as quantification. Third is called as quantification. Quantification means we quantify. We will see how much amount of A is present in this matter. Is it 20%? Is it 40%? How much amount of B is present in this matter? This is called as quantification of matter. So what is analytical chemistry? Analytical chemistry is the study or it is the analysis of substances. And what will you mean by analysis? It involves separation, it involves identification, and it involves quantification of substances from which that matter is made. Now, where will you find the application of analytical chemistry? Analytical chemistry can be used to understand the quality of soil or to find out the quality of soil. Soil की quality कैसे है हम ये पता करवा सकते हैं with the help of analytical chemistry. Means what we do while we are finding the quality of soil, we are going to find out the concentrations of nutrients, whatever the useful ingredients are required in a soil so that the plant grows properly. Okay, when we find out these, and on that basis we can do the cultivation of land so that we get a proper crop. So by applying analytical chemistry you can understand the quality of soil, nutrients, various elements, what are required for the proper growth of plants can be done with the help of analytical chemistry. There are various other applications. I am just explaining a few of them. Then the last branch of chemistry is called as biochemistry. Last branch is called as biochemistry. Now, biology and chemistry. So, it is nothing but understanding the chemical processes in living things. What is biochemistry? It is a branch of chemistry that deals with the study of chemical processes in living things. Do chemical processes occur in living things? Yes, obviously. Chemical processes occur in living things. How? For example, digestion of food. How food is digested, how we get energy, how we get proteins. First of all, the food that we take in has to be divided into smaller, simpler substances so that our body can easily absorb it. And for converting these into smaller substances, that food into smaller substances, we require enzymes, we require acids that will be secreted in our stomach. So this is an example of a chemical reaction taking place in a living thing. Okay, so digestion is the best example to explain this. So this is nothing but study of chemical processes in living things. Application of biochemistry, where biochemistry can be applied. One of the examples or one of the applications is it is used to identify the causes of various diseases. What we are going to do, we can identify the causes of various diseases and also find the cure for these diseases with the help of biochemistry. So I have explained it in very short because we are dealing with the basics of chemistry. We have seen that chemistry is all about matter, and matter can be described easily with the help of two types of properties. So the two types of properties are physical properties and chemical properties. So let us have a look at them. First is physical properties. So what are physical properties? These properties can be described looking at the original form of a substance. कोई भी चीज का जो ओरिजिनल फॉर्म है उसको देख के ही हम उसके प्रॉपर्टीज बता सकते हैं, तो वो प्रॉपर्टीज को हम बोलते हैं फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. द प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ अ सब्सटेंस इन इट्स ओरिजिनल स्टेट, द प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ द सब्सटेंस इन इट्स ओरिजिनल स्टेट आर कॉल्ड एज फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. If you look at this pen, what are its physical properties? You can say that this pen is white in color and there are black bands over it in between, and the height of this pen is about 10 centimeters. What is its state? Is it solid, liquid or gaseous? It has a solid state. So these properties, all these properties are called as physical properties. Similarly, आप इस बोर्ड के पास देखोगे, मैं पूछूंगा ये बोर्ड के प्रॉपर्टीज बताओ, फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज, तो आप क्या बोलोगे कि देखने के बाद ये कैसा लगता है, व्हाइट इन कलर है, कौन से स्टेट में है, सॉलिड स्टेट में है. सो ये बोर्ड के हो गए फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. तो फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज कौन से होते हैं, लेट अस सी. फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज में आते हैं कलर ऑफ पर्टिकुलर मैटर सब्सटेंस, देन इट कैन बी शेप, देन इट कैन बी साइज, देन इट कैन बी वॉल्यूम, देन इट कैन बी डेंसिटी, or we can say there can be boiling point, melting point, boiling point, and so on. These are called as physical properties. अगर इनमें की एक या एक से ज्यादा प्रॉपर्टीज चेंज हो जाती है किसी मैटर की या सब्सटेंस की, क्या होती है, अगर इनमें से कोई एक प्रॉपर्टी या एक से ज्यादा प्रॉपर्टी किसी चीज की चेंज हो जाती है, फिर उसको हम बोलते हैं फिजिकल चेंज. सो व्हाट इज द फिजिकल चेंज? चेंज इन वन और मोर ऑफ द फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. जब भी एक फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टी या एक से ज्यादा फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज किसी सब्सटेंस की चेंज हो जाती है तो उसको हम बोलते हैं फिजिकल चेंज. और फिजिकल चेंज जब होता है, देन एट दैट टाइम देयर इज नो चेंज इन द केमिकल कंपोजिशन. जब भी फिजिकल चेंज होता है, देयर इज नो चेंज इन केमिकल कंपोजिशन. सो द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन दैट शुड कम टू योर माइंड इज व्हाट इज केमिकल कंपोजिशन. केमिकल कंपोजिशन का मतलब होता है आइडेंटिफिकेशन एंड नंबर ऑफ एलिमेंट्स दैट फॉर्म अ कंपाउंड और अ केमिकल कंपाउंड. लिख के ले लो, आइडेंटिफिकेशन एंड नंबर ऑफ, शॉर्ट फॉर्म में लिख रहा हूं, नंबर ऑफ एलिमेंट्स दैट मेक अप अ केमिकल कंपाउंड, चलो अभी इसको समझने के लिए एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं. जैसे केक बना रहे हो, तो केक का किसी ने पूछा केमिकल कंपोजिशन क्या है, तो आप कैसे समझाओगे कि केक का केमिकल कंपोजिशन कैसे बताओगे? तो केक में क्या क्या डालते हैं हम? केक में मैदा डालते हैं, केक में शक्कर डालते हैं. ओके, मैं लिख के देता हूं, केक में हम क्या क्या डालेंगे. केक में डालेंगे मैदा, केक में ऑल पर्पस फ्लावर, फिर हम डालेंगे शुगर, थोड़ा सा कभी एक पिंच ऑफ सॉल्ट भी डाल सकते हैं. देन वी कैन ऐड एसेंस टू इट and there are various other things that we can add to the cake. Now look at the definition. Identification and number of elements that make up a chemical compound. तो इसमें आइडेंटिफिकेशन क्या हो गया? आइडेंटिफिकेशन यानी जो एलिमेंट्स यूज किए उनका नाम. मैदा, ओके, एक एलिमेंट है जिसका नाम है मैदा, वो हो गया उसका आइडेंटिफिकेशन. दूसरा एलिमेंट है उसका नाम क्या है? शुगर. ओके, दूसरा सब्सटेंस है उसका नाम क्या है? शुगर. तीसरा सब्सटेंस है उसका नाम है सॉल्ट. तो ये हो गया उनका आइडेंटिफिकेशन. और कितने एलिमेंट्स हमने डाले उसमें? 1, 2, 3 एंड 4. सो दीज आर द नंबर ऑफ एलिमेंट्स. तो इन चीजों को हम बोलते हैं केमिकल कंपोजिशन. तो हमने क्या देखा कि व्हेनेवर देयर इज अ फिजिकल चेंज देयर इज नो चेंज इन द केमिकल कंपोजिशन. और एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं समझने के लिए. आइस है, आइस का स्टेट क्या होता है? सॉलिड स्टेट में होता है. हमने उसको पिघलाकर पानी बना दिया उसका, तो अभी उसकी स्टेट क्या हो गई? लिक्विड स्टेट हो गई. तो ये चीज सॉलिड से लिक्विड में कन्वर्ट हो गया. लेकिन पानी तो पानी रहा, पानी शक्कर नहीं बन गया या कोई दूसरी चीज नहीं बन गई. इसका मतलब उसके केमिकल कंपोजिशन में कोई चेंज हुआ क्या? नहीं हुआ. पानी में क्या रहता है? 2 हाइड्रोजन और 1 ऑक्सीजन एटम्स रहते हैं. तो ये 2 एटम्स और ये ऑक्सीजन से ही पानी बनता है. ये कभी भी चेंज नहीं होगा. तो देयर इज नो चेंज इन द केमिकल कंपोजिशन. तो दिस इज अबाउट फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज एंड फिजिकल चेंज. सेकेंड टाइप ऑफ प्रॉपर्टीज आर कॉल्ड एज केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. सेकेंड, केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. सो व्हाट आर केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज? Chemical properties become evident or clear to us during a chemical reaction or after the reaction has taken place. Chemical properties are clear to us or evident to us during a chemical reaction or when the chemical reaction has been completed. उसके बाद ही हमको केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज का पता चलता है. कब पता चलता है? जब कोई केमिकल रिएक्शन हो रही है या वो केमिकल रिएक्शन हो चुकी है, उसके बाद ही हमको केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज का पता चलता है. केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज का एक एग्जांपल है टॉक्सिसिटी. वन ऑफ द एग्जांपल्स इज टॉक्सिसिटी. टॉक्सिसिटी मींस हाउ मच अ सब्सटेंस इज पॉइजनस. कोई चीज कितनी पॉइजनस है, ये एक उसकी क्या हो जाती है? केमिकल प्रॉपर्टी. कैसे? अगर कोई इंसान पॉइजन लेता है तो पॉइजन लेने के बाद वो या तो थोड़ा सा बीमार हो सकता है या तो बहुत ज्यादा बीमार हो सकता है या उसकी डेथ हो सकती है. तो हम वो चीज कितनी पॉइजनस है ये रिएक्शन होने के बाद ही पता करवा सकते हैं. तो सच टाइप ऑफ प्रॉपर्टीज आर कॉल्ड एज केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. वन मोर एग्जांपल ऑफ केमिकल प्रॉपर्टी इज फ्लेमेबिलिटी. फ्लेमेबिलिटी, दिस इज ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज. सो केमिकल प्रॉपर्टी फ्लेमेबिलिटी में क्या होता है कि कोई चीज कितने जल्दी फायर कैच कर सकती है. कोई भी चीज, हाउ फास्ट एनी सब्सटेंस कैन कैच फायर इज फ्लेमेबिलिटी. ओके, दैट इज आल्सो अ केमिकल प्रॉपर्टी. अब व्हेनेवर वन और मोर ऑफ द केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज चेंज, जब भी एक केमिकल प्रॉपर्टी या एक से ज्यादा केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज चेंज होते हैं, देन सच अ चेंज इज कॉल्ड एज अ केमिकल चेंज. Such a change is called as a chemical change. Whenever there is a change in one or more of the chemical properties of a substance, whenever there is a change in one or more of the chemical properties of a substance, it is called as a chemical change. One more important to be noted is that during a chemical change, the chemical composition also changes. The chemical composition also changes. So, if the chemical composition changes, altogether a new substance is going to be formed. जब भी chemical composition change होता है, तो जो पहले वाला जो substance रहता है, वो completely नए substance में convert हो जाता है, and the new substance is going to have different physical properties. So, these are the physical and chemical properties. With the help of these, we can describe matter in a better way. Matter and matter. So let us see the states of matter. All of you might be knowing the three common states of matter, that is solid, liquid and gaseous. बचपन से हम ये तीन ही states पढ़ते हैं. Okay, states of matter. That is solid, then second is liquid, and third is gaseous. But there is a fourth one too, which is called as plasma. These three are very common. So what can you say about the solid? Solids have definite shape and the density is more as compared to that of liquids and gases. So this is all about solid. I don't want to go into detail about solid. Then liquids occupy the space in which they are poured, or they occupy the space of the container in which they go. And gases they do not have any definite shape, but they have mass and they can occupy space. So if I inflate a balloon, then that balloon expands. That means that air is occupying the space. And when you weigh that balloon, it will show an increase in the mass also. So gases have mass and also they can occupy space. They do not have a definite shape. Plasma, that is not commonly known. This state of matter is not commonly known to us. So plasma is also a state of matter. It is also a form of gas. It is also a type of a gas. The only difference is that this gas consists of gas, and this gas consists of many charged particles. It consists of many charged particles. Okay, this is also a gas, but it consists of many charged particles. And these charged particles impart certain unique properties to this gas or plasma. And that is what differentiates it from the normal gas. Okay, so what is plasma? It is also a form of gas, but it consists of many charged particles, which imparts very unique properties to the plasma. Where can you find plasma? In natural state or naturally, you can find plasma in the interior of a star. Okay, where can you find plasma? In the interior of a star. Do you know where plasma is used? In the early days, you might have heard many times plasma TVs. Nowadays, we see LEDs. Okay, the displays are LED. Prior to that, which type of screens were used? Plasma screens. So that screen consists of a gas which consisted of many charged particles. So this is regarding the states of matter. 10th क्लास में एक स्टूडेंट का नाम रहता है राज. उसको मैम एक सवाल पूछते हैं, चल राज, वाटर का केमिकल फॉर्मूला लिख के बताओ. तो राज लिखता है HIJKLMNO. ये देख के मैडम को चक्कर आ जाती है. मैडम बोलती है, अरे मैंने तुमको वाटर का केमिकल फॉर्मूला लिखने बोला है, ना कि ABCD लिखने बोला है. तो राज बोलता है, मैम जो आपने सिखाया है वही तो लिख रहा हूँ. क्या है केमिकल फॉर्मूला? वाटर का H2O यानी H से लेके O तक वही तो लिखा है. ओके, सो लेट अस मूव फॉरवर्ड अगेन with the basics of chemistry. In order to describe the matter in more depth, we should know the nature of matter. And nature of matter can be understood nicely with the help of various atomic theories and models. So now we are going to look at the different atomic theories and different models. So first thing is, what is a model? A model means a miniature form. It can be a smaller form of the original thing, which is used to describe various functions or processes of the original system. That is known as a model. Now, with the help of the different theories, atomic theories and models, we will be able to understand the structure of atom. So, what is an atom? What is the literal meaning of an atom? Atom is a Greek word which means indivisible. Atom is a Greek word which means indivisible, means which cannot be divided further. So that is the meaning of atom. So when we understand atom, we are actually going to understand the nature of matter. So let us look at the first theory, which is famously known as Dalton's atomic theory. First is Dalton's atomic theory. John Dalton was a British school teacher and he proposed this theory in the year 1808. This theory was proposed in the year 1808 regarding the structure of an atom. Now let us look at the different postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. So what are postulates? Postulates means suggestions. Postulates means suggestion. Postulates का मतलब होता है suggestions. What did he suggest regarding an atom? Now let us see the first postulate of Dalton's atomic theory. So first postulate states that matter is made of indivisible particles. Matter is made of indivisible particles called atoms. We are seeing that the literal meaning of atom is indivisible. And what is Dalton saying? That matter is made up of indivisible particles called atoms. So if I take a piece of chalk and keep on dividing it into smaller and smaller pieces, then I will get smaller pieces. Again I will take a smaller piece and again divide it into smaller pieces. Out of that, again I will take a smaller piece and continue dividing it into smaller and smaller pieces. If I continue doing this, at the end I will be getting a very small particle of that chalk which cannot be further divisible, and that smaller piece will be called as atom. अगर मैं कोई चीज लेता हूँ, कोई भी चीज लेता हूँ और उसके अगर मैंने एप्पल ले लिया और एप्पल के छोटे छोटे पीसेस करना शुरू कर दिया, फिर वो पीसेस लिए उनको और बारीक किया, फिर और उनको छोटा छोटा करते गया, तो एंड में मुझे एक ऐसा छोटा पार्टिकल मिलेगा एप्पल का जिसको मैं फर्दर डिवाइड नहीं कर पाऊंगा, तो उस छोटे पार्टिकल को हम बोलेंगे एटम. सो दिस वाज द फर्स्ट पोस्टुलेट ऑफ डाल्टन्स एटॉमिक थ्योरी. नाउ लेट अस लुक एट द सेकंड पोस्टुलेट which states that atoms of same element are similar. Atoms of same element are similar and atoms of different elements are different. And atoms of different elements are different. So atoms of same element will be similar and atoms of different elements will be different. Suppose that I take two elements, sodium and chlorine. Just an example, sodium and chlorine. Now this sodium will be made up of atoms and all these atoms will be similar to each other. Then I will take chlorine and Dalton says that all atoms of chlorine means this atom will be similar to this will be similar to this, all will be similar to each other. And in Na also all atoms will be similar to each other. So atoms of same element are similar and atoms of different elements are different. Now Na and Cl are two different elements. Therefore, the atom of Na will not be similar to the atom of chlorine. Na का जो atom होगा वो क्लोरीन के एटम से कोई भी मेल नहीं खाएगा. इन ये दोनों अलग अलग एलिमेंट्स है, तो इन दोनों के एटम्स भी अलग अलग होंगे. अगर सब एटम्स किसी एक ही एलिमेंट के हैं तो सब एटम्स सेम रहेंगे. सो दैट इज द सेकंड पोस्टुलेट व्हिच स्टेट्स दैट एटम्स ऑफ द सेम एलिमेंट आर सिमिलर एंड एटम्स ऑफ डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स आर डिफरेंट. नाउ लेट अस सी द थर्ड पोस्टुलेट. Third postulate states that atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. Atoms can neither be created and nor be destroyed. So this is very simple to understand. It states that we cannot make atoms nor we cannot destroy the atoms also. सो एटम्स को हम बना भी नहीं सकते और उनको हम डिस्ट्रॉय भी नहीं कर सकते। दैट इज द थर्ड पोस्टुलेट। जैसे हम कंजर्वेशन ऑफ एनर्जी देखते थे, दैट इज एनर्जी कैन नाइदर बी क्रिएटेड नॉट बी डिस्ट्रॉयड। सो सिमिलरली ये भी एक कंजर्वेशन लॉ के ऊपर ये पोस्टुलेट डिपेंडेंट है। देन the first postulate that was given by Dalton is that atom is the smallest particle. Atom is the smallest particle that can take part in a chemical reaction. That can take part in a chemical reaction. So, atom is the smallest particle of a substance of matter that actually can take part in any reaction. And what is a reaction? Reaction is nothing but when one or more substances react with each other to form one or more different substances. When one or more substances form one or more different substances, then that is called as a chemical reaction. For example, how can I write a chemical reaction? If I say that A plus B go through a reaction and we get C plus D. So, one or more elements go under a chemical reaction to form two different substances. And the elements or the substances that take part in the reaction are called as reactants. They are called as reactants, and the new substances that are formed are called as products. So this is about the chemical reaction. So coming back to the fourth postulate, what is Dalton saying? That atom is the smallest particle that can take part in a chemical reaction. So these were the postulates given in the Dalton's atomic theory, or these were the suggestions given by John Dalton. Now let us see what were the drawbacks. Now, if you look at the first point, it says that matter is made up of indivisible particles. But today, now we know that matter can be further divided into protons, neutrons, and electrons. That means atom is further divisible. It can be further subdivided into protons, neutrons, and electrons. Therefore, this postulate is proven wrong, that atom is indivisible. Now we know that atom is further divisible. Then one more drawback of this theory is that Dalton said that atoms of same element are similar. What did he say? Atoms of same element are similar. We have studied this. But if you look at isotopes, you might have heard the word isotopes. Isotopes means elements having the same atomic number but different mass number. Elements having the same atomic number but different mass number. Atomic number is the number of protons in an atom. And what is atomic mass number? It is the sum of protons and neutrons. So if you look at isotopes, they are going to have the same atomic number but different mass number. Now let us take the example of chlorine. Now according to Dalton, all the atoms of chlorine should be similar. But in reality, there are some atoms which have a mass of 35 and there are some atoms which have a mass of 37. Some of the atoms have a mass of 35 and some of the atoms have a mass of 37. These are the two isotopes of chlorine. This means that atoms of the same element are not always similar. So this is the second drawback. First drawback was atom is further divisible into protons, neutrons and electrons, and second drawback is that isotopes, if you consider the isotopes, then atoms of the same element will not always be similar. So these were the two drawbacks. Now let us look at the next model, which is called as Thomson's plum pudding model. मॉडल देखने के पहले एक जोक हो जाए। एक बार क्या होता है, एक स्टूडेंट है जिसका नाम प्रांजल रहता है, वो जमीन के ऊपर बुक्स रख के मैथ्स की प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करते रहती है। उतने में उनकी क्लास टीचर आती है और पूछती है, प्रांजल ये क्या कर रही हो, जमीन पे क्या कर रही हो? तो प्रांजल बोलती है, मैम आपने ही तो कहा था कि मैथ्स के प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करो विदाउट यूजिंग टेबल्स. Now let us see Thomson's plum pudding model, which was proposed in the year 1904. Plum pudding is an English dessert. And what is a dessert? A sweet food that is generally eaten after a meal, that is called as a dessert. So let us have a look at the first postulate as given by Thomson. Now what did Thomson say? He said that the positive charge is uniformly distributed over the entire atom. The positive charge is distributed uniformly or uniformly distributed over the entire atom. Suppose that this is an atom, then the total positive charge will be uniformly distributed over this entire atom, and the negatively charged electrons will be embedded in it, and the negatively charged electrons will be embedded in it. So you can compare this model to a dry fruits cake. For example, अगर हमने एक केक लिया ड्राई फ्रूट्स वाला, तो ऊपर से अगर आप देखोगे तो उसमें ड्राई फ्रूट्स रखे हुए रहते हैं, ऐसे एम्बेड किए हुए रहते हैं, अंदर तक वो जा चुके रहते हैं, तो उसको बोलते हैं एम्बेड. सो वो जो ड्राई फ्रूट्स है वो होते हैं निगेटिवली चार्ज इलेक्ट्रॉन्स, और जो सर्कुलर शेप है पूरा टोटल जो ऊपर का सरफेस है केक का, दैट इज द पॉजिटिवली यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड पॉजिटिव चार्ज. So this is the Thomson's plum pudding model. तो पहला क्या था, पहला postulate क्या है कि the positive charge is uniformly distributed over the entire atom and the negatively charged electrons are embedded in it. Now let us look at the second postulate. Second postulate states that the total positive charge on the atom, is balanced by the total negative charges. जितने भी पॉजिटिव जो एक यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड पॉजिटिव चार्ज है एटम पे, इट इज बैलेंस्ड बाय और इट बैलेंसेस द टोटल नेगेटिव चार्जेस. अगर दिस इज एन एटम एंड दिस इज कंप्लीटली यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड पॉजिटिव चार्ज एंड इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आर एम्बेडेड इनसाइड इट, सो दीज आर द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स. इफ आई टेक the total charge on these electrons, and if this comes out to be minus 20, electrons are negatively charged, so therefore this sign minus 20, and then the whole positive charge on this atom will be how much? Plus 20. So these two charges will cancel each other because minus 20 and plus 20 becomes 0, and therefore the atom will become electrically neutral. So what is the second postulate? It says that total positive charge on the atom is balanced by the total negative charge on the atom, and therefore the atom is electrically neutral. So these are the two main postulates in Thomson's plum pudding model. Now this is also going to have some type of limitations or drawbacks, so let us look at the drawbacks. First thing, the positive charge is uniformly distributed. This was said by Thomson, but this postulate was proven wrong by Rutherford's scattering experiment. Okay, पहला जो बोला गया था कि पॉजिटिव चार्ज यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड है, वो गलत साबित किया था रुदरफोर्ड ने by his famous scattering experiment. सेकेंड जो ड्रॉबैक था इसके अंदर, थॉमसन डिड नॉट से एनीथिंग अबाउट द न्यूक्लियस. ओके, सो न्यूक्लियस रहता है एटम के अंदर, उसके अंदर क्या रहता है, पॉजिटिवली चार्ज न्यूक्लियस रहता है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं कहा गया था बाय थॉमसन. सो दिस वाज द सेकेंड लिमिटेशन ऑफ थॉमसन्स प्लम पुडिंग मॉडल. और एक लिमिटेशन था जिसमें वो है कि एक एटम जो रहता है जनरली इट इज स्टेबल, एटम इज जनरली स्टेबल, एंड द स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ एटम, हाउ दैट एटम इज स्टेबल, कैनॉट बी एक्सप्लेन्ड बाय थॉमसन्स प्लम पुडिंग मॉडल. So this is all about Thomson's plum pudding model in short, because we are studying the basics of chemistry. Now the next model that we are going to see is Rutherford's nuclear model of atom. Let us see Rutherford's nuclear model of atom, which was proposed in the year 1911. This is famously known as Rutherford's scattering experiment. What did Rutherford do? He took a gold foil of the thickness 10 to the power minus 4 millimeter. That means 1 divided by 10,000 millimeters, which is very very thin. And he bombarded this gold foil with positively charged alpha particles from a radioactive element which is called as helium. So he bombarded the gold foil with positively charged alpha particles. इसका मतलब क्या है कि रुदरफोर्ड ने एक गोल्ड फॉइल ली जिसका थिकनेस था 10⁻⁴ मिलीमीटर. फॉइल का मतलब घर पे एल्यूमिनियम फॉइल तो होगी जिसमें हम खाना रैप करते हैं, फॉइल यानी पेपर के जैसा जो होता है, लेकिन इसका जो थिकनेस है वो बहुत ही ज्यादा कम था. फिर एक रेडियो एक्टिव एलिमेंट लिया जिसका नाम था हीलियम. उसमें से हमने पॉजिटिवली चार्ज अल्फा पार्टिकल को बम्बार्ड किया, यानी उनका कोलिजन किया. किसके साथ? गोल्ड फॉइल के साथ. और उसके बाद हमने ऑब्जर्व किया कि क्या होता है. नाउ इन थॉमसन्स मॉडल इट वाज स्टेटेड दैट द पॉजिटिव चार्ज इज यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड. अगर पॉजिटिव चार्ज यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड है और उसको हम बम्बार्ड करते हैं विद पॉजिटिव अल्फा पार्टिकल्स, पॉजिटिव चार्ज यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड और अल्फा पार्टिकल्स भी पॉजिटिव चार्ज, तो दोनों में रिपल्शन हो जाएगा. और ये रेस क्या होनी चाहिए? अल्फा पार्टिकल्स क्या होने चाहिए? दे शुड डिफ्लेक्ट बैक फ्रॉम द ओरिजिनल पाथ. यानी कि बहुत सारे जो अल्फा पार्टिकल्स है वो टकरा के वापस चले जाने चाहिए. लेकिन इस एक्सपेरिमेंट में ऐसा पता चला कि मोस्ट ऑफ द अल्फा पार्टिकल्स वेंट स्ट्रेट थ्रू द गोल्ड फॉइल विदाउट एनी डिफ्लेक्शन. जो बहुत सारे पॉजिटिवली चार्ज अल्फा पार्टिकल्स थे वो सीधे गोल्ड फॉइल में से चले गए विदाउट चेंजिंग देयर पाथ. थोड़ा भी उन्होंने अपना पाथ को चेंज नहीं किया और सीधा टकरा गया. किससे? ये एक फ्लोरोसेंट स्क्रीन है जो इस गोल्ड फॉइल के आजू बाजू में रखी है. फ्लोरोसेंट स्क्रीन का काम क्या होता है कि जो अल्फा पार्टिकल इस पे टकराएगा फ्लोरोसेंट स्क्रीन पे तो वहां पे ग्लो होगा, तो उससे हमको पाथ ऑफ द पार्टिकल्स समझ में आ जाता है. तो पहली चीज हमने क्या देखी? फर्स्ट थिंग दैट वी ऑब्जर्व्ड वाज दैट द अल्फा पार्टिकल्स वेंट स्ट्रेट थ्रू द फॉइल विदाउट एनी डिफ्लेक्शन. दिस मीन्स दैट most of the alpha particles did not face any obstacle in their path. इसका मतलब क्या है कि अल्फा पार्टिकल्स के बीच में कोई भी ऑब्स्टेकल नहीं आया. इससे समझ में आता है कि वो जगह पे कुछ भी नहीं था. There was an empty space inside the gold foil. Then he observed that a very few number of the alpha particles got deflected by a smaller angle. This is the smaller angle. यानी ऐसे आए पार्टिकल्स और ऐसा मुड़ गए, ऐसे आए और ऐसा मुड़ गए बाय अ वेरी स्मॉल एंगल. और उससे भी थोड़े और कम अल्फा पार्टिकल्स गॉट डिफ्लेक्टेड बाय अ लार्जर एंगल. पहले वाले छोटे एंगल से थे, अभी दूसरे वाले थोड़े और ज्यादा एंगल से डिफ्लेक्ट हो गए. तो ये आप देखोगे तो ये जो रे है दिस इज गेटिंग डिफ्लेक्टेड एट अ ग्रेटर एंगल एंड दिस अल्फा पार्टिकल्स आर गेटिंग डिफ्लेक्टेड बाय अ स्मॉलर एंगल. This means that these rays or these alpha particles might have faced some obstacle in their path. इसका मतलब क्या होता है? उन्होंने अपना पाथ चेंज कर दिया ये अल्फा पार्टिकल्स ने. इसका मतलब होता है कि उनके बीच में कोई ना कुछ आया होगा जिसके वजह से वो टकरा के साइड में चले गए. एंड उसके बाद पता चला कि ओनली 1 out of 20,000 particles, only 1 out of 20,000 अल्फा पार्टिकल्स, 20,000 में से सिर्फ एक अल्फा पार्टिकल गॉट डिफ्लेक्टेड बैक फ्रॉम देयर ओरिजिनल पाथ. डिफ्लेक्टेड बैक यानी कि टकरा के वापस चले गए. ऐसे कितने अल्फा पार्टिकल्स टकरा के वापस चले गए? बहुत ही कम. 20,000 पार्टिकल्स में से सिर्फ एक पार्टिकल गॉट डिफ्लेक्टेड बैक. तो ये ऑब्जर्वेशन से रुदरफोर्ड ने फिर अपना मॉडल पुट फोर्थ किया. इससे एक चीज तो समझ में आ गई कि जो गोल्ड फॉइल है उसमें काफी ज्यादा एम्प्टी स्पेस है और जो पॉजिटिव चार्ज है वो है लोकेटेड एट द सेंटर ऑफ द एटम. एंड और एक चीज से पता चली कि जो मास है एटम का वो भी सेंटर पे ही सिचुएटेड है, क्योंकि वहां पे टकराने के बाद ही डिफ्लेक्शन होता है. सो let us look at the postulates given by Rutherford's nuclear model of atom. So first postulate was that there is a positively charged nucleus at the center of the atom. पहला postulate क्या था? Positively charged nucleus में short form में लिख रहा हूँ. Positively charged nucleus is situated at the center of the atom. At the center of atom. Then second postulate था कि the entire mass of an atom entire mass of an atom is situated at the center. Entire mass of the atom is situated at the center. So entire mass जो atom का होता है, it is at the center. यानी कि अगर ये atom है, तो entire mass of this atom will be at the center. Okay, so this will be the nucleus. The third postulate. लेकिन थर्ड postulate पे जाने से पहले एक चीज जानना जरूरी है कि ये मॉडल जब पुट फोर्थ किया था रुदरफोर्ड ने, उसके पहले ही उन्होंने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स की डिस्कवरी उन्होंने कर चुके थे. सो इलेक्ट्रॉन्स वर डिस्कवर्ड बाय whom? Electrons were discovered by Rutherford. Now let us move on to the third postulate. Third postulate states that electrons revolve around the nucleus. If this is the nucleus, then electrons are going to revolve around the nucleus, and there will be an empty space between the revolving electrons and the nucleus. So this portion is an empty space. So this is the third postulate. Now let us see the fourth postulate. Fourth postulate states that total charge on electrons is equal to total negative charge on electrons is equal to the total positive charge on the nucleus. Total negative charge on the electrons is equal to the total positive charge on the nucleus, and therefore the electron, not the electron, therefore the atom is electrically neutral. So if these are electrons and I say that there are 3 electrons here, so there will be a -3 negative charge if we sum up the total negative charges. Then this nucleus, we know that nucleus is going to have a positive charge, then this nucleus will also have +3 positive charge, and this -3 and +3 will cancel each other, and therefore the atom will be electrically neutral. So these were the postulates in Rutherford's nuclear model of atom. Now it has one drawback. There is a very well-known principle in physics which states that if a charged particle is revolving in a circular orbit, okay, if there is a charged particle, suppose that this is a charged particle, and if it is revolving in a circular orbit, then it tends to lose energy. क्या मतलब होता है कि अगर कोई भी चार्ज पार्टिकल अगर गोल चक्कर में घूमता है तो वो अपनी एनर्जी हमेशा लूज करता रहेगा. अगर एनर्जी लूज करेगा तो क्या वो यही ऑर्बिट में घूमेगा? नहीं, वो ऑर्बिट का रेडियस छोटा छोटा होते जाएगा. कैसे होगा? ये ऐसे घूमेगा, फिर एनर्जी कम हो जाएगी, फिर कम कम होके यहाँ पे आ जाएगा. ओके, इफ द चार्ज पार्टिकल लूजेस एनर्जी, then it will follow this path and it will collide with the nucleus at the center. But in reality this does not happen. All the atoms are stable in reality except the atoms of radioactive elements. जो radioactive elements रहते हैं सिर्फ उनके जो atoms है वो unstable रहते हैं, लेकिन बाकी कोई भी चीज कोई भी element लो तो उनके जो atoms रहते हैं वो stable रहते हैं. So this is a big drawback of Rutherford's nuclear model of atom, and this drawback was removed in the next theory, and that will be seen very shortly. Now let us see Neil Bohr's stable orbit atomic model, which was proposed in the year 1930. So let us have a look at the first postulate. The first postulate states that the electrons revolve in concentric circular orbits around the nucleus at a certain distance from the nucleus. What does the first postulate say? That the electrons revolve in concentric circular orbits around the nucleus at a certain distance from the nucleus. Means if this is the nucleus, then the electrons are going to revolve in concentric circular orbits. What do you mean by concentric circular orbits? Circle inside a circle inside one more circle, these are called as concentric circles. So electrons are going to revolve around the nucleus in concentric circular orbits at a certain distance from the nucleus. This is a certain distance from the nucleus, and the electrons will be revolving like this. in concentric circular orbits. So this is the first postulate in this model. Now let us look at the second postulate. Now what does the second postulate say is that the energy, very important, the energy of an electron in a particular orbit remains constant. The energy of an electron in a particular orbit remains constant. Now this is one orbit. If the energy of this orbit, just an example, is 20, the energy level of this orbit, the first orbit, is 20, then all the electrons that are revolving in this orbit will have an energy of 20. The energy of this electron will also be 20, the energy of this electron will also be 20. So the energy of an electron remains constant while it is revolving in a particular orbit. Now you can see the orbit, this orbit is at a higher level, it is going to have higher energy. So we can say that this electron is going to have an energy of 40. So all the electrons in this orbit are going to have energy of 40. So the energy of an electron revolving in a particular orbit remains constant. जब एक इलेक्ट्रॉन एक ऑर्बिट में घूमेगा तो उसकी जो एनर्जी रहेगी वो कांस्टेंट रहेगी, न कि वो कम होगी या ज्यादा होगी। और इसके आगे कोई अगर इलेक्ट्रॉन एनर्जी गेन करता है या फिर लूज करता है तो उसके बाद क्या होगा, दैट वी विल सी इन द थर्ड पोस्टुलेट। सो द थर्ड पोस्टुलेट स्टेट्स दैट इफ एन इलेक्ट्रॉन गेन्स एनर्जी, अगर कोई इलेक्ट्रॉन एनर्जी गेन करता है, देन it will move to the next higher orbit. If an electron gains energy, then it is going to move to the next higher orbit. Suppose that we provide energy to this atom and the electron here gains some energy. Obviously, if it gains some energy, it is going to become more than 20. Now, if the energy becomes more than 20, it is not going to stay in the same orbit. Obviously, it has to go to the orbit of next higher level. So it will leave this orbit and go to an orbit, higher orbit. If it moves to this orbit, then obviously it has gained some energy equal to the difference of the two energy levels. Equal to the difference of the two energy levels. इसका मतलब क्या? अगर हम देखेंगे कि इस इलेक्ट्रॉन ने एनर्जी गेन की तो वो ये ऑर्बिट से ये ऑर्बिट में चला गया। पहले उसकी एनर्जी कितनी थी? 20। अब वो दूसरे ऑर्बिट में चला गया, जिस ऑर्बिट, उस ऑर्बिट की एनर्जी लेवल कितनी है? 40। तो उसने कितनी एनर्जी गेन किया? पहले उसके पास थी 20 ऑलरेडी थी, अब वो 40 के लेवल पे चला गया तो ऑब्वियसली उसने कितनी एनर्जी गेन की? 20। तो 20 plus 20 will become 40. So an electron, if it gains energy, it moves to the next higher orbit and the energy gained is equal to the difference between the two energy levels, and the energy gained is equal to the difference between the two energy levels. Once again, if this is the nucleus and this is the first orbit and this is the second orbit, here there is an electron, the energy level of this orbit is 10 and the energy level of this orbit is 100. Suppose, just an example. Now what happened? We provided heat or energy to this atom and this electron gained energy, and after gaining energy it moved from here to here, it jumped from here to here. Obviously that means it has gained energy, and the gained energy is equal to the difference in between the two energy levels. Difference in between the two energy levels means 100 minus 10. So how much energy it gained? It gained energy of 90. And opposite of that, if an electron loses energy, then it will jump from higher orbit to a lower orbit. अगर कोई इलेक्ट्रॉन अपनी एनर्जी लूज कर देता है तो वो हायर ऑर्बिट से लोअर ऑर्बिट में चला जाएगा, यानी कि यहाँ से जंप करके वापस यहाँ पे आ जाएगा। अगर यहाँ से जंप करके यहाँ पे आया तो उसने कितनी एनर्जी लूज किया? यहाँ पे उसकी एनर्जी थी 100, यहाँ पे आने के बाद उसकी एनर्जी थी 10, तो कितनी एनर्जी लूज किया? 100 minus 10, that is 90. So this is the next postulate of Bohr's stable orbit atomic model. Now, this model is also having many drawbacks, and these drawbacks will be studied in detail in your higher classes. We are doing with the basics. I am just going to state what are the drawbacks of this model. First, let us see what is the first drawback of this model. The first drawback is that it cannot explain the spectrum of hydrogen. It cannot explain, these are the drawbacks. It cannot explain the fine spectrum of hydrogen. Fine spectrum of hydrogen atom. What is spectrum? A band of colors that is formed by a ray of light, that is called spectrum. And hydrogen spectrum cannot be explained by Rutherford's atomic model. Then, second drawback is that it cannot explain Zeeman effect. It cannot explain Zeeman effect and Stark effect. It cannot explain Zeeman effect and Stark effect. Okay, it cannot explain Zeeman effect and Stark effects. Now, what are these effects? We will be studying in detail in higher classes. Just I will state that Zeeman effect means it is the splitting of spectral lines. What is it? It is splitting of spectral lines. Find out what are spectral lines. Splitting of spectral lines in the presence of magnetic field. In the presence of magnetic field. Splitting of spectral lines in presence of magnetic field. And Stark effect is also splitting of spectral lines but in presence of electric field. But in presence of electric field. So what is Zeeman effect? Splitting of spectral lines in presence of magnetic field. And what is Stark effect? Splitting of spectral lines in presence of electric field. Now let us see the next drawback. See the third drawback. Third drawback is that this theory works well only with atoms with one electron. Okay, it works well with atoms with only one electron. Okay, so this theory does not work well, or it does not work at all with atoms with multi electrons. जो एटम्स के पास सिर्फ एक ही इलेक्ट्रॉन है उनके ऊपर ही ये थ्योरी अप्लाई होती है. फॉर एग्जांपल हाइड्रोजन एंड हीलियम, दे हैव ओनली वन इलेक्ट्रॉन, so this theory is going to work well with such type of atoms. But if an atom has more than one electron in it, then this theory is not going to work on it. Next drawback. Next drawback is that it cannot explain, this is a very important drawback, it cannot explain the dual nature of electron. It cannot explain the dual nature of electron. So what do you mean by dual nature of electron? An electron behaves both like a matter particle also and it can behave like a wave also. Okay, इलेक्ट्रॉन जो रहता है वो पार्टिकल के जैसा भी बिहेव कर सकता है, मैटर के पार्टिकल के जैसा भी बिहेव कर सकता है और वो एक वेव के जैसा भी बिहेव कर सकता है. दैट इज कॉल्ड द ड्यूअल नेचर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन. अब ये दोनों के जैसा क्यों बिहेव करता है, दैट कैन नॉट बी एक्सप्लेन्ड बाय दिस मॉडल. The various theories and models that we have seen on the structure of atom, we came to the fundamental principles of atomic structure. So let us have a look at the fundamental principles of atomic structure. Atom consists of two parts. First is nucleus and second is called as the extranuclear part. So if this is an atom, nucleus will be present at the center of the atom and this portion around the nucleus is called as the extranuclear part. So this portion is called as extranuclear part. So let us have a look at what is nucleus. So let us see nucleus. Nucleus consists of two subatomic particles which are called as protons and neutrons. Now the important thing about nucleus, we know that the entire mass of the atom is concentrated at the center, that means at the nucleus. If this is an atom, then entire mass of the atom will be concentrated towards the center, that is towards the nucleus. So this is a very important point. And the nucleus consists of two subatomic particles which are called as protons and neutrons. The nucleus gets a positive charge because of the positively charged protons. Now let us look at the protons and neutrons. Nucleus consists of protons and neutrons. First, we will see what are protons. Protons have a positive charge and the nucleus gets a positive charge because of the protons. Now, the charge on one proton is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. This is the charge of one proton. And protons are represented by small p. This small p means protons. And if you want to express the number of protons, then it will be represented by capital Z. Capital Z is also used for atomic number. And what does atomic number mean? Atomic number means the number of protons present in the nucleus of an atom. So Z means the number of protons in the nucleus of an atom. The mass of one proton is approximately equal to 1 Dalton. The mass of one proton is approximately equal to 1 Dalton. Now let us see the second subatomic particle, which is called as neutron. Neutron is also present in the nucleus of an atom. As the name suggests, neutron is electrically neutral, which means that it does not have any charge on it. Mass of neutron is also equal to 1 Dalton, approximately equal to 1 Dalton. How is neutron represented? It is represented by small n. Small n means neutron. And if you want to express the number of neutrons, then you will be using capital N. So capital N stands for number of neutrons and small n stands for neutrons. And neutrons and protons together in the nucleus, neutrons and protons together in the nucleus are called as nucleons. They are called as nucleons. Entire mass is concentrated at the center, that is at the nucleus, and this is mainly because of the mass of the protons and the mass of the neutrons. And electrons do not have mass, or we can say that they have negligible mass, therefore there is no mass around the nucleus. Now, the second part, that is called as the extranuclear part. The electrons revolve in circular orbits in the extranuclear part. So let us see the third subatomic particle, which are called as electrons. Electrons are represented by small e. We all know that electrons are negatively charged. The charge on one electron is equal to minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. This is the charge on one electron. Electrons, the total charge on electrons is balanced by the total positive charge of protons. The total charge on electrons is balanced by the total positive charge on protons, and therefore the atom is electrically neutral. We have seen this before also, that if there are two protons in the nucleus, and we can say that there is plus 2 positive charge to the nucleus because of the two protons there, and in this orbit there are two electrons, then they will be having minus 2 charge on it, and these two charges will cancel out each other, and then the atom will become electrically neutral. One more thing about neutron is that all atoms have neutrons in them. Only hydrogen is an element which does not have any neutrons in its nucleus. Okay? हाइड्रोजन ही ऐसा एक एलिमेंट है जिसके पास न्यूट्रॉन्स नहीं होता है, बाकी सभी एलिमेंट्स के पास न्यूट्रॉन्स होते हैं। अब ये जो थी ये है फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ एटॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर। दीज आर द फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ एटॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर। Now I have used the word that electrons revolve around the nucleus in circular path. This is called as the circular path. Electrons revolve around the nucleus in circular paths. Now these circular paths are also called as orbits and or shells. But there is somewhat difference between orbits and shells. So we are very shortly going to see the difference between orbits and shells. Now let us see what are shells and orbits. We have seen earlier that electrons revolve in a circular path around the nucleus, and this is the circular path. This circular path is called as a shell. This is called as a shell. So what is a shell? The circular path in which the electrons move around the nucleus. The circular path in which the electrons move around the nucleus is called as a shell. This is called as a shell. So what is a shell? जो circular path है जिसमें इलेक्ट्रॉन्स रिवॉल्व करते हैं या मूव करते हैं अराउंड द न्यूक्लियस इज कॉल्ड एज अ शेल. अब ये जो शेल होता है उसके अंदर और भी सबशेल्स होते हैं. द शेल कंसिस्ट ऑफ वन और मोर सबशेल्स. एवरी शेल कंसिस्ट ऑफ वन और मोर सबशेल्स. सबशेल्स अगर अंडरस्टैंड करना है तो आपने कबर्ड देखा होगा. कबर्ड के अंदर बहुत सारे कप्पे होते हैं, तो हम कबर्ड को बोल सकते हैं शेल, और अंदर के जो कप्पे होते हैं उनको हम बोल सकते हैं सबशेल्स. तो एक शेल के अंदर वन और मोर सबशेल्स होते हैं. अब कितने प्रकार के सबशेल्स होते हैं? हाउ मेनी टाइप्स ऑफ सबशेल्स आर देयर? देयर आर 4 सबशेल्स. दीज आर कॉल्ड एज S, P, D and F. S, P, D and F are the names of the subshells. These are subshells. These are present, subshells are present inside the shell. Each shell may have one or more of these subshells. For example, one of the shells may have only S in it. There may be another shell which may consist of both S and P. There may be another shell which may consist of the subshells S, P, D and F. So a shell consists of one or more subshells. Now let us see what is an orbit. What is an orbit? Orbit is a space where the possibility of finding an electron is maximum. What is orbit? What is an orbit? It is the space where the probability of finding an electron is maximum. For example, अगर कोई स्टूडेंट है, लक्ष्य है, वो स्कूल में हमेशा कैंटीन में जाके बैठा हुआ रहता है पूरे लेक्चर्स वगैरह बंक करके, और कोई बाहर से उसका दोस्त आता है और आपको पूछेगा कि यार लक्ष्य कहाँ है बताएगा, तो सब बोलेगा अरे वो कैंटीन के पास मिलने के पूरे चांसेस है. तो द पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ फाइंडिंग लक्ष्य इज मेनली एट द कैंटीन. सो व्हाट इज एन ऑर्बिट? इट इज अ स्पेस where the possibility of finding an electron is maximum, that is called as a orbit. अब इन दोनों का रिलेशन देखते हैं. पहले हमने देखा कि ये जो है उसको हम बोलते हैं शेल. अब ये जो शेल है उसको रिप्रेजेंट किया जाता है, उसको हम रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं विद द हेल्प ऑफ प्रिंसिपल क्वांटम नंबर. इसका डिटेल आप हायर क्लासेस में पढ़ोगे, प्रिंसिपल क्वांटम नंबर. एंड this shell is represented by small n. N means the number of the shell. Now this is the first shell around the nucleus, so this will be n equals to 1. If I draw one more shell around it, then the shell will be n equals to 2. This is how we represent the shell. And each shell is going to have one or more subshells. What are the names of the subshells? S, P, D and F. And each subshell is going to have one or more orbitals. Each subshell. These are all subshells. They are going to have one or more orbitals. All these four are going to have one or more orbitals. Now to be exact, let us see how many orbitals can be present in the subshell S. S can have only one orbital. Okay, I will write here number of orbitals. Number of orbitals. The number of orbitals that can be present in S is only 1. P has 3 orbitals present in it, D has 5 orbitals present in it, and F has 7 orbitals present in it. Now one more important thing is that one single orbit can hold 2 electrons at the max. Okay, one orbital, एक orbital में कितने electrons maximum बैठ सकते हैं? Only 2 electrons. So I can say that the holding capacity of one orbital is 2 electrons. एक orbital में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कितने electrons बैठ सकते हैं? 2 electrons. तो अगर मैं बोलूँगा कि 2 orbitals है, तो 2 ऑर्बिटल में कितने बैठेंगे? एक ऑर्बिटल में 2, तो 2 ऑर्बिटल में 2 into 2 दैट इज 4 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स. चलो अभी देखते हैं कि यहाँ पे ये जो सबशेल्स है उनमें कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स बैठ सकते हैं. एस में कितने ऑर्बिटल्स है? 1 ऑर्बिटल होगी एंड नंबर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन्स दैट इट कैन होल्ड. तो अगर एस में एस इज हैविंग ओनली 1 ऑर्बिटल देन इट विल बी होल्डिंग ओनली 2 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स. P has 3 orbitals. One orbital can hold 2 electrons. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 means it can have 6 electrons. D can hold how many? It has 5 orbitals and one orbital can hold 2 electrons. So total number of electrons 5 into 2 that is 10. And F has 7 orbitals in it and therefore it can hold 7 into 2 that is 14 electrons. So this understanding is very important when you will be doing electronic configuration of various elements. So this is the main difference between shells and orbits. But we use shells and orbits to represent the path of the electrons. So this is all about shells and orbits. So this was all about shells and orbits. Very soon in the next video you will be seeing most commonly used terms in chemistry, जिससे आपको काफी फायदा होगा. जनरली जो टर्म्स हमेशा केमिस्ट्री में आते हैं और वो टर्म्स हम सिर्फ लर्न कर लेते हैं, उनको समझे बिना, तो इनका एक्सप्लेनेशन हम जल्दी ही नेक्स्ट वीडियो में लेके आएंगे.